This is Joe, the host of He Said, She Said, and I want you to know that your fear of the unfamiliar is what's keeping you where you are. Our routines that we have every day we wake up, we use the bathroom, we brush our teeth, we comb our hair, or we take a shower, or we make breakfast. The familiar is what's keeping us in that routine. Because it's familiar, it's comfortable. Because it's comfortable, are we necessarily growing? That is one question that we need to be asking ourselves. Are we growing based upon our level of comfort? There's a saying that says, if your dreams don't scare you, then you're not dreaming big enough. But what I would say is that if what God has called for you to do scares you, there has to be an adjustment of the way that you're looking at what He's calling you to do. Are you going with what you feel like you have to do based upon your own abilities? Or are you simply going with it in the mindset knowing that God has already equipped you for what He's called you to do, or He will equip you for what He's going to call you to do? That's a different approach, and that's also a different way of looking at it. A different mindset is developed based upon that. It's a healthy mindset that's developed on that. If I look over my life, the things that God has called me to do, like talk about relationships in my He Said, She Said discussions, or talking in front of groups of people, things I used to be frightened to do. It used to scare me to do these things. It used to make me concerned, saying, Lord, I don't think I'm adequate enough to talk to somebody about relationships, especially when I was single. I was like, how am I going to be able to do this? What will I say? I'm not even in a relationship. And I've had even some people approach me with that. How are you talking about relationships and you're not in one? But one thing I did always point back to is that there's certain people, or there's a lot of people in the Bible that were called and they weren't qualified. And most importantly, the first relationship I wanted to get right before I got into one, which I thank God that I did it this way, was I wanted to get the relationship that I have with Him first. I wanted to get that right first so that way I know how to model the relationships that I have with people. And so, with that being said, with the fear of your unfamiliar, sometimes we have to just readjust the way we're looking at it. The lens in which we're using the unfamiliar, because it's unknown, because we live in a society saying that we have to know every move at every time. We always have to have a plan. We always have to have it all figured out. When we really look at that, that's really just a way of us wanting to have a control over the situation. And that's me. I love planning because there's a level of control that I have over things. But what about when I don't have control over things? How do I act then? Am I afraid? Am I concerned? Am I more resistant to change? Absolutely. How will I expect to change if I'm resistant to the change that is going to be going through me or supposed to be going through me? Will I let it, or will I be the hindrance that will stop it? I never want to be the blame for the things that are not happening in my life. So it's time for us to adjust that, make that adjustment by looking at it and saying that we trust that God is going to give us the provision for what He wants us to do. And if He's not giving us the provision for what we are supposed to be doing, then we need to look and make sure that we are in alignment with what He wants. Because ultimately it's what He wants, not about what we want. Because sometimes what we want isn't what's best for us.